Hello and welcome to the Mid-Island Pacific Rim All Candidates Debate brought to you by Shaw TV, Community Programming, and 93.3 The Peak. We'll hear from 5 of the people running for MLA this election and learn about their visions for the Alberni Valley and the province as a whole. My name's David Wauchar, News Director at 93.3 The Peak, and I'll be your moderator for this event. With us is incumbent Scott Fraser of the NDP, Darren DeLuca from the BC Liberal Party, Alicia LaRue representing the Green Party, Dan Sabuliak from BC Refed, and Julian Fell of the BC Conservative Party. An invitation was sent to Robert Clark of the BC Libertarian Party, but we did not receive a response. Candidates will have 2 minutes for opening and closing statements, 1 minute to answer the 3 questions posed, and perhaps some time for rebuttals as well. We had a random draw to see who goes first, and I'll ask Scott Fraser to give a 2-minute opening statement starting now.
Hi, it's great to be here. I want to acknowledge the Sishat and the Hupachesit Nations and the unceded territory that we're gathered on today. British Columbia has become the most unequal of provinces. As child poverty and homelessness rates soar, as life becomes more and more unaffordable for most people and most families, as our environment and our climate become more and more at risk, one group has been benefiting. Liberal insiders and donors, the big money. That is no accident. That has been engineered. It's like a rigged Monopoly game. Here's how it works. Christy Clark uses her role as Premier to elicit large donations to the BC Liberal Party. In return, the Liberal government provides her donors with a $1 billion tax break, hundreds of millions in lucrative government contracts, the gutting of environmental regulations and public oversight, anything and everything that they want. And the rest of us, MSP payments going through the roof, hydro and ICBC rates the same, ferry rates doubled, tuition fees tripled. The list goes on. It doesn't have to be this way. I know a guy, an island guy. His name is John Horgan. He's a friend of mine. He's running to be Premier. He gets it. John loves people and he cares. The NDP under John Horgan will legislate an end to big money in politics in British Columbia, end the corporate and union donations, and end to out-of-province and foreign donations, and we will move this province to a fairer proportional representation system. We will cancel the $1 billion tax break for the rich, lower small business taxes, end MSP payments, bring in affordable childcare, and make life better for British Columbians. The people at the top have had their Premier, and it's time for the rest of us to have a Premier who stands up for us. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. Darren.
Hello, and thank you for tuning in. This election is about you and which candidate and which party is best suited to represent you and your family. My candidacy and my platform is also about you. It has not been mailed in by the NDP War Room in Burnaby. My platform is built upon the work I've done as a citizen in my community. Work like securing $100,000 to fund a business plan for the Alberni Valley Aquatic Centre so we can replace the 50-year-old Echo Pool with a new modern recreational facility. Work like initiating an update of the McMillan Park and Cathedral Grove Master Plan, adding amenities, improving parking, and expanding park boundaries. You won't see me blocking or protesting planned improvements. You will see me advocating for them. It means lobbying for highway dollars, securing $24 million to reduce congestion and improve safety and reliability on Highway 4 from Port Alberni to Highway 19. And it means creative ideas like the Meadowwood Connector, pre-feasibility study to construct a 2.5-kilometer cutoff from Little Qualicum Falls Park to Highway 19, saving time, money, and improving safety for both north and southbound travelers. I will fight for forest policy that works for Alberni. I will fight to get access to fiber for companies who are investing in our community. Alberni Valley residents have a decision to make. We can decide to be part of a government with a vision for a strong, prosperous BC and a candidate who believes in a bright future for the Alberni Valley. Or we can settle for 4 more years on the opposition backbenches. This election is about you, your job, your family, and your community. I live, work, and raise my family in the Alberni Valley. This is my home, and I will fight to represent you.
Thanks, Darren. Alicia.
Hello, my name is Alicia LaRue, and I'm running for the BC Green Party. So I'm sure many of you at home are wondering, what is the BC Green Party? Or possibly many of you are thinking the BC Green Party is an extremist environmental group that is all about no, no, no. And I am happy to let you know that that is so far from the truth. The BC Green Party is all about creating local jobs, and we're all about creating a local economy. We're about participatory democracy, and then also evidence-based policies. Now, Dr. Andrew Weaver, who's an MLA for Oak Bay, Gordon Head, has really showcased what a MLA is capable of. He's done an incredible job at really getting a group of candidates together all across the province to really be a force to be reckoned with. Now, I'm so excited to be part of the BC Green Party because right now, we're making history. We, at the very least, are going to bring this government to a minority government, which is exactly what is needed right now. It's, for my personal opinion, is that these two-party systems, they just don't work. They divide people. There's no balance there. The BC Green Party will bring balance. If those of you at home that don't know about a government that is a minority government, it's basically that not one person, one party holds all cards. This is a game, this is a this is a game that, or I shouldn't say this is not a game. The government is not a game. It's a matter of working together. And now the BC Green Party, we would have the deciding factor for the votes that will ultimately bring you at home. We'll work with the minority government, or sorry, we'll work with municipal government, and we will work with federal government to together work with you to bring issues that are facing now and the future to the Legislative Assembly. So thank you so much for tuning in.
Thank you, Alicia. Dan.
Good afternoon. My name is Dan Sabulak, and I am with the BC Refederation. I am the candidate for the Alberni, or the Mid-Island Pacific Rim riding. In this election, I'm going to introduce the growing concept of direct democracy. That would include all citizens of British Columbia in a decision-making process and make all politicians accountable for their actions. We have all been taught that we live in a democracy. We have an election once every 4 years, and in between elections, we have no say. In the last 40 years, more so in the last 16 years, the citizens have been ignored. There has been legislation passed that has created high underemployment and unemployment, that has allowed major tax increases right across the board, legislation that has allowed resource revenues to disappear. The BC Refed proposes a constitution which reads, declare the citizens of this province to be the sole source of political rights in BC, allowing the citizens to write a constitution that will define and limit the powers they grant to government. We are almost there with the BC Recall and Initiative Act. That succeeded only once in 25 years. With a Made in BC Constitution, many opportunities will be opened up, thus allowing small and medium businesses to flourish once again, creating opportunities for our youth to acquire the skills needed in science and trades training, thus giving the youth the basics to further advance the province. A BC Constitution would also create an environmental policy second to none, thus creating a strong balance between citizens, business, and environmental needs. After all, it is the people who plant the seeds of change. It is the people who do the work, and it is the people who are the innovators. Thank you.
Thanks, Dan. Julian.
Yes, thank you. I am Julian Fell. I am my own boss, but I have joined with the BC Conservatives, who have no relation to the Ottawa Conservatives. I live in Errington, Coombs, and I have represented this area in the regional district of Nanaimo since 2011. I bring a local government perspective to the table. My background in education is in science and technology. I have worked in biological research, mining, museum management, and project management. I am privately a fiscal conservative, a political realist, a government minimalist, a closet radical environmentalist, but I am always pragmatic. I believe that policy should be based in reality, not in ideology. I believe government should provide useful and necessary services and facilities, but should stay out of people's lives, opinions, religions, or personal affairs. I strongly oppose the nanny state. The province is not your mother. No government should dictate private details of one's life. I don't have a doctor. I have never been able to afford a new car. My wife and I had to spend 2/3 of our retirement money savings to buy a home for our daughter because she couldn't afford one. So I am like the most of you. We have we have hundreds of positions, but the two major ones are reckless spending. Provincial debt is now $65 billion, annual interest is $4.5 billion. We're paying 77% interest. The Liberals and my friends here are tossing promises of unfunded promises as if money is free. BC Conservatives promise nothing but financial stability. Our other big thing is we wish to stop climate hysteria. It is now scientifically clear that CO2 has negligible effect on climate. The carbon tax is futile and should be scrapped. Thank you.
Thank you all. We'll now move into our question and answer period. The first question deals with forestry. Forestry is king here in the Alberni Valley, and there are a number of national, international, and local issues affecting things right now, but ultimately a shortage of fiber has led to increasing shutdowns at local mills. What would you and your government do to bring forestry jobs back to Port Alberni, or should the community be moved in other directions? We'll start off the answers to this with Darren DeLuca.
Thank you, David. You know, we're in a very sensitive time right now. We're right in the middle of the softwood lumber agreement, so there's not a lot of things that we can do while we're negotiating in respect to the log exports. I think any move we make on that right now would really upset those negotiations. But I do believe we need to bring sovereignty back to forest policy. We need to negotiate a softwood lumber deal that supports workers and communities. And there are no easy answers, but there are things that we can do. First, we need to eliminate the BC timber sales annual undercut and get local loggers working again and fiber into the mills. We have almost 1 million cubic meters undercut on Vancouver Island right now. That fiber should be in the product supply. I also think we should be looking at options to dedicate a portion of the timber to community forests. We're supporting community with the Rural Dividend Fund of $100 million, $150 million for forest enhancement, and...
Thanks. Alicia LaRue.
Thank you for the question, Dave. Basically, my BC Green Party's thoughts on this is we need to diversify. You know, right now, Port Alberni is a prime example of a boom and bust city that is focused on our natural resources. Now, we do agree with not exporting our raw log exports anymore. We'd make a transition from that into then manufacturing our wood here locally. Also with, obviously the mills, they need an upgrade. So we're gonna give, with upgrades, no PST to upgrade the mill equipment. Again, with diversification, diversifying our economy, we have an opportunity for our agricultural sector. We have an opportunity for bringing in more green technologies, more green tech. Right now, you look at the tech industry is, it's growing right now as the natural resource industry is not. The tech industry, it actually pays more. So again, we are about working, yeah.
Dan Sebulak.
I know.
Thank you for the question. The BC Refederation Party, in implementing its BC Constitution, would be in direct consultation with the public. It is the public that will decide what our forestry policy would be, and it would be up to the BC Refederation government to make sure that policy would work. Some of the things to be looking at is eliminating raw log resources, period. Currently, there are 6.13 million cubic meters of logs that have been shipped out in the last year. That can create up to 3,600 jobs within the forest industry alone. Not only that, by eliminating log exports, we would be able to start reintroducing stumpage rates again to once again invigorate the economy.
Thank you. Julian Fell.
Yes, thank you. Obviously, forestry is essential to the area. I suspect current management practices are not the most efficient for productivity, as corporate ownership defines efficiency in financial terms, which can be materially wasteful. Just look at the clear cuts over where I live. Obviously, value-added industries would be a great help. Alberni Valley enjoys cheaper housing from where I live, which is a major advantage. Regarding log exports, this is a corporate choice because it's very profitable for the corporations. I instinctively dislike the idea, but that is what the customers want. Canada has no leverage in this, as alternate sources of logs have enough capacity to completely replace anything that Canada chooses to withdraw from the market. So we can't force anything, but if we can find value-added industries here that can use it, let's go for it.
Thank you. And finally on this question, Scott Fraser.
Thank you. We've lost 30,000 forestry jobs in this province due to the liberal mismanagement of forestry. And ground zero is here in the Alberni Valley. The government removed 800,000 hectares from the tree farm license, public tree farm license, gave it to Weyerhaeuser for free. We've seen a spiral drop in jobs ever since, and the corresponding increase in raw log exports, 800,000 cubic meters leaving the port and leaving by road as APD workers sit at home for 3 months. That has to stop. We will reverse the trend of raw log exports taking away our jobs. That has to stop, and it has to stop here in the Alberni Valley. We need to make sure that forest companies, private forest companies, cannot curtail and stop the ability of other types of jobs, ecotourism jobs in our backcountry. We need to make sure the public still has access, as they're supposed to our backcountry, our lakes, our parks. It's absurd that the government is allowing this to happen.
Thank you. Our next question deals with social issues. Port Alberni has become a city of social services in an area with some of the worst poverty problems in the province. What would you and your party do to assist people on social assistance and reduce poverty levels in our community? We'll start with Alicia LaRue.
Great, thank you for the question. So yeah, I mean, definitely living here in Port Alberni, it's very apparent to me that there is an issue with low income. Definitely with the BC Green Party, with dealing with this, we're looking into ideas behind universal basic income. So that right there would be, it would eliminate a lot of the different programs that we have into one big umbrella, where everybody would be able to have the same amount of money that's given to them. And we're proposing a pilot project, and so that's a community that Andrew Weaver has said that Port Alberni actually hits the perfect demographic for this. Also as well, we're looking into social housing, affordable housing. That's a big thing for people not getting the right place to live. And we believe that everybody has a right to live in where they love to be. Yeah, you know, it is one of those things that I find, for me, it's a matter of talking to community and talking, figuring out together, because...
Thank you. Dan Sebulak.
With the BC Refederation Party's constitution for British Columbia, a lot of these problems would be addressed through the increased collection of revenues that have been virtually given away in the form of resources to corporations. This money would have to be invested back into education, sciences, trades training, and it would also help spur economic growth from small and medium businesses, who are essentially the backbone of the province in creating employment. And poverty, as far as that goes, with the increase of employment and income coming back into the province, the poverty rate would drop as it has been proven in the past. Thank you.
Thank you. Julian Fell.
Yes, thank you. Probably the fastest way to put money in people's pockets without having to change a whole lot of else is to reduce the cost of housing. We have to pay a fortune for housing because there's an extraordinary shortage, and it is a bidding process. BC needs literally 250,000 housing units that will cost between no more than 4 times a person's annual income, which is between $40,000 and $200,000. And the only way you can achieve that is by a significant change in provincial statutes regarding zoning and planning of communities. That would be the fastest way to put money into people's pockets. If people can afford housing, they've got more money to spend on other things. The other approach, of course, is value-added industries in this area for lumber that is currently being exported.
Scott Fraser.
Thank you. As MLA for Alberni Pacific Rim, we began the housing initiative, affordable housing initiative, and also more recently an attempt to bring together all the political players, federal representatives, the city, the regional district, New Chalmette leaders to attack poverty issues. We have some of the highest poverty problems in the country here in this region. The provincial government, the Liberal government, has refused to acknowledge this. They have refused to engage in a poverty reduction strategy like every other province. The NDP will raise social assistance rates by $100 a month, will raise the similar $100 a month for people with disabilities, will return the clawed-back bus pass that Christy Clark took away from people with disabilities, and we have to acknowledge, all of us have to acknowledge that poverty is everyone's problem, and it's not just a social problem. It's bad for business, it's bad for the economy, it's costly in so many ways, and we need to fix that. The NDP have committed to.
And finally on this question, Darren DeLuca.
Well, the NDP believes in giving you a bigger welfare check. The BC Liberal Party believe in a job. We believe it all starts with a job. So here in this riding, what we're doing, we're investing in the airports. We're investing in the Tofino Airport. We're investing in the Alberni Valley Airport. We're investing in transportation infrastructure. We believe that you should create an environment for a small business or a large business to create jobs. We're also, personally, I'm also supporting the PATH project. I think that's a great project for the region, potentially a $1.8 billion project. The Steelhead LNG project, another great project for this region. I 100% support that. And I believe if we invest in people and we invest in infrastructure, wealth will come to the people.
Thanks, Darren. That's a great segue into our next question, which is about the economy. Port Alberni has certainly seen better days in terms of the economy, and while we may never have the country's highest income again, what are some of your ideas for things that your government could do to improve the overall economy in the Alberni Valley? And this time we'll start with Dan Sebulak.
Thank you. The BC Refederation Party's constitution that would be implemented and designed by the people. Again, this is where everybody takes participates within the framework laid out. People have many ideas what we need to do, and that would come from secondary manufacturing, would include new green technologies, and it would give us a chance to start investing back into the people in the form of long-term benefits to the community and the province as a whole. By investing in short-term investments, we're missing out on our greatest resource, which is our youth, and our youth deserve better than what they are getting. Thank you.
Thank you. Julian Fell.
Yes. Economic growth is not a consequence of some master economic plan managed by government. It is a collective result of people individually seeking what is in their own best interest whilst helping to provide services and objects that other people want. The role of government is to provide useful infrastructure, provide useful training appropriate to the needs, treat business as a source of employment, not as a source of tax revenue, provide fair tax rates for services, which means eliminating punitive taxes like the carbon tax, and otherwise get out of the way of people that want to start businesses, reduce the paperwork, keep regulatory procedures to an absolute minimum.
Thank you. Scott Fraser.
Yeah, and the first thing to do when it comes to forestry jobs is to make sure that we start managing our forests sustainably so that people can have jobs, not just now, but in the future. That, first and foremost, involves turning around and restricting raw log exports to make sure that the jobs that are here will stay and flourish, and that we invest in technologies and innovation in the forest industry to make sure that every bit of value is added to every tree that's taken down. Also, we need to invest, I think, diversify our economy in ways that we maybe have begun on but are being restricted by government's inaction at very least, and sometimes by their own policies. And that is restricting access to the area, our backcountry, our parks, our lakes, our rivers. People live here to be able to access these things, but so do people come here and will come here, and it's a big economic generator, and we have to make sure that private companies never be able to deny that access and deny business in this valley.
Darren DeLuca.
Well, I'd reiterate a little bit what I'd previously talked about investments in the airports, supporting our tourism industry, supporting a fledgling aerospace industry that we have out at the Alberni Valley Airport. I think our community forest is another good initiative for the community. Certainly the highway and transportation initiatives to open up access, one of the biggest challenges in getting products in and out of the valley. Certainly the PATH project is one that can make a significant difference in this community, and I'll be working hard to make sure that one gets the recognition that it deserves. I also think that Cathedral Grove and expanding Cathedral Grove, improving the park amenities, parking is certainly a big challenge, and expanding park boundaries. I'm going to help that process move forward, not stand in the way.
And finally on this question, Alicia LaRue.
All right, thank you so much, David. So basically, the BC Green Party is all about building resilient communities. And I believe that Port Alberni is already quite resilient as is, not as is, but has that potential to really be a diverse economy. We're all about focusing on local businesses. We're focusing also on food security. So the Alberni Valley has ample amount of potential to really be a hub for creating a lot of Vancouver Island's food source. Obviously, the timber is still, it's still going to be a thriving economy with investing in manufacturing the wood here locally, also investing in upgrades on the mills, and also not allowing any old growth or any raw log exports. To me, I feel like the possibilities here are endless, and it's just a matter of us diversifying and bringing in those possibilities. There's also exponential growth for education, and even also we're going to invest, I'm going to run out of time, but basically, yeah.
Thank you all. We haven't heard the bell that much, so we're doing pretty good.
I'm not a seasoned politician here, okay?
Well, to that end, we do have some time, so why don't we have a period of some rebuttals if you have a question that you would like to ask one of the other candidates about a point that's been raised so far.
I have a question for Scott. Something that came up at their last talk in Tofino, which I was kind of shocked at, because I know that you have been huge into the Ancient Forest Alliance and then also the Wilderness Committee. What's your take on old growth tree logging?
Yeah, thanks for the question, Alicia. As you know, the industry in this area largely revolves around old growth. That's how the mills are set up, and we have to make sure that we get all the value we can from those trees. They're being shipped out of the valley, and they're not providing the jobs that they should be. We should be getting every job we possibly can per cubic meter. I would comment in BC we get 1.6 jobs per cubic meter. In Ontario, let's put it in context, they get 11 jobs per cubic meter. So we're knocking them down and shipping them out with no consideration for jobs or the long-term integrity of our old growth forests or our second growth, which are coming out in 40-year cycles now, which is not even sustainable for the earth to regenerate in a way, the nutrients in the earth to regenerate, so that they can be a sustainable industry for the future.
But you are for old growth logging? No.
I didn't say I was for old growth logging.
Yeah.
I'm saying I support our jobs here, and I support sustainable forest policy with our old growth and with our second growth. It has to be managed properly. It is not right now.
Anyone else have a question of a fellow candidate? Dan?
My question is to Darren DeLuca. When the taxpayers are now considered a resource for income and corporations are being let off the hook with less and less taxes, what would be the Liberals' solution to increasing corporate taxes and reducing taxes towards the citizens of British Columbia?
Thanks, Dan. I think it's it's our position that jobs come from the private sector, and if we don't have investment in the private sector, then nobody's working. Then we lose our social programs. We don't have money for healthcare and education, and we don't have money for all the other things that are important to British Columbia. So we're proud of the fact that we have the lowest corporate tax rate in British Columbia and one of the lowest corporate tax rates in BC, and we've seen the investment in jobs that come up as a result. We've got 5 consecutive balanced budgets. We've got a AAA credit rating. We've got the highest GDP growth in the country, and we've got the highest job growth in the country. And so those things we're very proud of, and we think the corporate tax rate assists with that.
All right, thank you. Anyone else? Questions for fellow candidate Scott?
Yeah, I have one for my Liberal opponent, Darren DeLuca, and it's around, he mentioned balanced budget. I'm wondering if Darren supports his government's pattern of taking money from BC Hydro, billions of dollars from BC Hydro that they don't have to balance their budget, of changing the law so they can take money out of ICBC to balance the budget. Meanwhile, increasing those rates astronomically for average people as a flat tax, which increases inequality in the province. How can he justify his government taking money from ICBC and BC Hydro and then say that they balanced the budget on the backs of the ratepayers?
Thanks, Scott. I think, governments need to get their revenue from multiple sources. And we've chosen as a government to take ours, in some cases, from a user pay and from a return on investment perspective. We've talked about a 50% cut in the MSP this year. You're talking about a 100% cut. Where are you going to get the money from, Scott? There's $1 billion hole in your budget, and many other areas in your budget that doesn't add up. So, the $10 a day daycare that you've been promising to people, it doesn't even come in until kids are driving a car. So a lot of what's in your platform is very dishonest. I think your position on a lot of matters around forestry, around softwood lumber. If NDP was running the softwood lumber deal, they'd blow up the entire forest industry right now. And I think we need to be very, very cautious of that.
Anyone else? Julian, this is a rare opportunity for you to be on the other side of the table during an all-candidates debate. You want to take advantage of it?
Well, actually, my observation is that I liked a lot of what these guys were saying. Maybe to the Green candidate, I've seen, I guess it's Dr. Weaver, say that they are a grassroots party, and yet they're fundamentally built on the philosophies of Agenda 21. Now, most people don't know what Agenda 21. It's actually, I've got a copy of it right here. It's a document produced by the United Nations about almost 30 years ago, which prescribed how we have to take control of everything away from the riffraff and give it to elites who know what's good for everybody. Local government zoning and
I need you to get
regional.
to the question there, Julian, please.
Oh, okay. Could you, are you aware of the tie of your party to Agenda 21?
Honestly, I'm not. I definitely know that the roots were based in a lot of more environmentalism. But I can definitely say that Andrew Weaver, yeah, but at the same time, though, we can keep going in, any party's past. It's a matter of living in in a lot of ways. Where are we at now? Where is Andrew Weaver bringing the BC Green Party? And what he's done with the platform, which I recommend you at home take a look at, is bcgreens.ca. And you'll see how amazing the platform is and how it looks at it looks at both creating jobs, but then also creating more policy and taking care of everyone. So I would say that Andrew Weaver has done an amazing job, and I completely stand behind him as being the leader of the BC Green Party. And as well, the other candidates that he's brought to the table are second to none. So I stand behind the Green Party, and I'm proud to be part of it.
Great, thank you, everyone. And now for closing statements, and I'll ask Julian Fell to give a 2-minute closing speech starting now.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, an election in Canada is where you get to decide who your dictator is going to be for the next 4 years. The leader of the party that wins the election becomes the master of everything. They pick their cabinet, and everybody else is a backbencher. The Liberals, NDP, and the Greens, in my opinion, all serve special interests that dictate their policies. They seem so far to be promising what we would just characterize as reckless spending. Election of one of these gets you basically a backbencher, no insult intended, but and the job of the backbencher is just to vote the party line. The nice thing for me is that the BC Conservatives don't have we have all free votes. We can vote whatever way we want, and we would if we get elected. We're not going to form any next government. We've only got 10 candidates, but obviously we could be in a position to cast deciding votes. And for that, you need someone that's not being dictated by outside philosophy. We don't have any special interests running us. So if you want someone whose loyalty is strictly to what is I consider best for this area rather than best for the party as a whole, I would like to be that person. Please vote for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Scott Fraser.
Yeah, thank you. I've been honored to serve in the region as an MLA for the last 12 years, and I've taken on many battles and raised many issues on behalf of my constituents, both large and small, but all were vital. For example, the Liberal government refused to open a hospice known as Ty Watson House in Port Alberni. We fought that and we changed that. Hundreds of people have had quality end-of-life care in a home-like setting because of that. I've been able to help children with developmental disabilities who were being refused and denied supported child development funding, prevented from attending school and preschool. The government did this. It took embarrassing the minister, it took embarrassing the premier to get that one fixed. These things should never have happened, and they should never be a challenging thing for an MLA to deal with, but they were because we have a Liberal government with all the wrong priorities. Christy Clark's priorities are all about carving up our commonwealth and handing it over to those with influence, those that donate to the BC Liberal Party. We cannot permit this premier to continue to treat this great province and this region as their own private board game, where forest giants are handed over control to our tree farm license, from our tree farm license for free, where forest companies are allowed to knock trees down and ship them out at the expense of our environment, our jobs, and our communities, where those same companies are permitted to put up gates and deny public access to our backcountry, to our lakes, to our rivers, to our campsites, to our parks. These all have one thing in common. Those involved have paid millions of dollars to influence the premier and her minister, and she and they have let them get away with murder. John Horgan and the NDP have a plan to change all that, to take big money out of politics, to create good family-supporting, sustainable jobs, to make life more affordable, and to fix the services that people count on. All of that I ask is you please vote, and when you vote, thank you.
Darren DeLuca.
You've had an opportunity to compare candidates, compare parties, and compare platforms. My candidacy is about you and this community. It has not been mailed in by the NDP War Room in Burnaby, with nothing to offer the Alberni Valley. My platform is built upon the work I've done as a citizen in this community. Alberni residents have a decision to make, a decision about which candidate and which party is best suited to represent you. Now is the time for the Alberni Valley to be part of the BC success story by allowing me to work for you. We will build community infrastructure and invest in the Alberni Valley Aquatic Centre. We will improve highway linkages, invest in Highway 4 to reduce congestion and improve safety. We will promote creative ideas like the Meadowwood Connector to construct a 2.5-kilometre cutoff from Little Qualicum Falls to Highway 19, saving time and money and safety for both north and southbound travelers. We will grow the Alberni Valley Regional Airport to promote tourism and nurture our fledgling aerospace industry. We will update the Cathedral Grove Master Plan. I will work to improve park amenities, build a proper parking lot, and expand park boundaries. I will not be standing in the way of critical safety improvements. I will make way for them. We will promote projects like the Port Alberni Transshipment Hub and the Steelhead LNG projects that can be game changers for this community. We will work to create forest policies that work for Alberni. We will get a fair softwood deal that protects forestry jobs in forest communities, and we will bring sovereignty back to BC forest policy. We will implement cost-saving measures that support our value-added ministries and release the fibre held up by BC timber sales. Alberni Valley residents have a decision to make. We can decide to be part of a government with a vision for a strong, prosperous BC and a candidate who believes in a bright future for the Alberni Valley, or we can settle for 4 more years on the opposition backbenches. I ask for your support, and let's make Alberni the best it can be.
Alicia LaRue.
Great. Well, yeah, thank you so much for tuning in and watching this debate. For myself, I am obviously not a seasoned politician, so I've definitely been learning a lot, tons with all of the different policies and all the different issues. But basically what it boils down to, even for myself, jumping into the deep end of the pool here, is because of my daughter, because of my community, because of where I do believe that we're going with our future. Our future, I don't believe that we're going on a path that will bring us a positive future. You know, the moment that I talk to a lot of young people, young students, they're quite worried about where we're going. And that's where I am so excited to be part of the BC Green Party, because we're putting up policy to think about the future, to think about problems that are dealing with now, but also problems that we will have to deal with the future, with the change of, you know, the unknown, right? So it's a matter of building resilient communities. And so for me, living in Port Alberni and raising my daughter here, I'm so excited to see all the opportunities that can come here, but then also working with you on creating good policy and being part of the Legislative Assembly. Yeah, so, you know, I know that I'm not by any means under any, you know, I've got lots to learn, there's no doubt about it. However, I am willing to learn more and to really be that voice for this area. And we've got a great opportunity with the BC Greens to really bring the government into minority government and have the BC Greens as the deciding vote and work together. Because again, these two-party systems, it just doesn't work. If you watch the Legislative Assembly, I find it's a lot like watching a ping pong match, back and forth, back and forth. And I really do think that talking to the youth, it deters them from really wanting to be part of our democracy. And so now the BC Greens are giving hope to our future, and we're bringing policy that will bring that hope to fruition and make it happen. So thank you so much. You want to be part of history? I know, Alberta, vote Green.
And last word to Dan Sebulak.
We have a choice this election. We can either continue voting the same old parties again that are promising to spend your money to bring us into a future. But therein lies the problem. We've been talking, many politicians have been talking about the future for the last 30 years. Well, here we are 30 years later, we're still talking about the future, and we haven't fixed or even come close to fixing the structural problems that we face today. With those structural problems, the youth are losing out. Many people that are losing their homes and businesses due to poor economic policies. With the BC Refed Constitution, it would take all of us to rebuild the province to what it once was. On May 9th, you have a choice. Please vote with your conscience. Thank you.
And thanks to all the candidates who've stepped forward to run for election and participating in this all-candidates meeting. Thanks to the City of Port Alberni for allowing us to use their council chambers today. Thanks to Darren Evans and the entire crew of Shaw TV Community Programming for setting this up. And thanks to you at home for tuning in and taking an interest in the political future of this riding. I'm David Wouchar from 93.3 The Peak, and I urge you all to exercise your right to vote in the provincial election on Tuesday, May 9th.